Hi, everyone. This is Tracy. I'm with Create Academy, and today we're doing our Create Form and Focus group for writers. And I'm so excited to be here today with my friends Dan LaRock and PJ Clark. Teresa Dedman is the leader of our Create Academy, and she is actually in the UK with a team right now, just releasing creativity to many churches and places around the UK. And so we just bless their team right now, if any of them are listening. And we miss you, Teresa, but we're going to carry on here. So thanks to PJ for, PJ's going to be here. You all know PJ Clark. She heads up the dance program within Create Academy, but she's also an author and is going to be helping me field questions from the chat on the live Facebook. And then I just want to introduce wonderful Dan LaRock here. Thank you, Dan, for joining us on Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Yes.
Thank you, Chris. It's a pleasure to be with you today, and PJ, so good to be with you as well. Excited about Valentine's Day today. My wife and I had a fun morning. We had some sentiments we wanted to share with each other, and some cards and things of that nature. So she she's just been a amazing partner for me for 28 years of our marriage, and I think we've probably been dating for 30. And so and most of my jokes still hit. I mean, most of them still connect. Now, she's not here to tell you that I'm lying about that, but most of the time we have a great time together, and it's been just the blessing for my life that she would spend it with me when she could have spent it with anybody, and I just I'm so thankful for her.
I hope she hears this, because that was super sweet. I know. I was thinking, somebody on Facebook yesterday was asking, what would you like for your gift for Valentine's Day? And all I could think of was, I just love it when my husband looks at me with a twinkle in his eye. I mean, it's just like, it says everything. And that's what I put. I'm good with that.
Yeah. Amen. Yep.
Anyway, I want to invite people that are in the chat on Facebook Live. Welcome to you all. I was wanting you to put your name and where you're from in the live, and we're going to have PJ let us know in a little while where everybody's from. If you have any questions for Dan or for me or for PJ, please put them in the chat and we'll field those questions. We'll answer some of those on live here, and those that we don't get to, I will try to answer later on. This will all be posted and saved on Facebook, so you can see the interview later, plus on Teresa Dedman's YouTube page. You can reach any information about Create Academy, which is sponsoring and producing this show, at www.teresadedman.com, and that'll be in the chat as well. So on with the interview here, Dan. Let's just continue. Can you tell us more about yourself? And do you have a copy of your book there? Because I have it on my Kindle, but I don't have. See, we can't see it. Super blurry. You got to put it in front of your face.
Super blurry.
I think you have to put it in front of your face. There we go. Congratulations on the launch of Grandpa's Gift. I know that was a long labor of love, and so excited for you right now. But tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, your ministry, and your book, and why you wrote it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chris. Well, I'm a Minnesota-born man, and grew up in the northern Twin Cities suburbs. Also attended, school in the Twin Cities, and then college in Minnesota as well. Met my wife Marie while we were in college 30 years ago, and my practice at the time, I was involved in higher education work. So I actually worked in a university setting for about 8 years, and then I worked in philanthropy for about 5 years. So doing a lot of development work for different organizations, healthcare, university, otherwise. And then eventually was able to join a practice, and I'm now a shareholder and a principal in an insurance consulting practice. It's international. It's one of the largest ones in the world. It's called Hub International. And so in that practice, I get to work with entrepreneurs all around the country, mostly in the 8-state upper Midwest area, but all around the country, helping them with their benefits designs and plans like this. And that's the kind of stuff that has afforded me an opportunity to be different levels of connection with leaders across the region who are creating great jobs and great companies and great organizations. And so that's been where I've worked for a long time. In addition, about 8 years ago, my wife and I were able to follow a call. She would describe it as the Holy Spirit being up in her grill, if you will, for a period of years, and her responding to it over time and in communication together. We formed a mission-based horse ranch called LaRock Ranch, and it's a place where children, adults, families can come for things as easy as horse riding lessons. We're kind of like driver's ed for kids and horses. We also have a program for seniors called Senior Saddles, where we invite assisted living center residents over to our farm in Southwest Minnesota for field trips and experiences. And if you want to see what joy looks like harvested on a human face, put a 90-year-old on a horse and watch him go. It can be quite something. We have seen it over and over again, and we're so thankful for it. And then we have a mental health program. So for people that need a little more in this world in terms of coping mechanisms and ability to talk about things that are really, really difficult sometimes, we have made our horses, and we've got a team of licensed credentialed mental health counselors, all with a kind of a Christian background to help deliver care where they need it. And that's all three of those programs are growing. We had over 2,000 visitors last year to our ranch in Southwest Minnesota for those reasons. That part of that and forming LaRock Ranch and being around the formation of that was part of a process for me that I think was taking a level of intentionality toward my faith. And along the way, I was drawing from all kinds of different resources over the past 15, 20 years. And some of those resources are apologetics. Some of those resources are definitively evangelical. Some of those resources are numerous. But one of the resources that I found the most comforting, and I think where I realized that there's something to this history of our faith that can guide us even today, was when I rediscovered my grandfather's writings. And my grandfather, his name was C. Maxwell Brown, was born in South Dakota, 1905. He lived until 1992. And during his time, he was a Methodist minister in both North and South Dakota, spent time in Minnesota as well. And at the end of his career, he was called to the West Coast, San Francisco Bay Area, Berkeley, California, all up and down the Bay Area. And he delivered in that time. It would have been toward the end of his ministry career. So he was in his 50s and had the breadth of experience behind him from over 25 years in the ministry prior to getting there. Well, he in the mid 60s was giving radio addresses, over the entire Bay Area and up and down the coast. And those addresses were rich with topics that to me came across 60 years later as I was rereading them as just timeless wisdom for the times we live in. And so he's talking about racial reconciliation. Martin Luther King was referenced numerous times in his writings, and the work that we were doing around human rights. He was talking about mental health. Of all things in the mid 60s, he was talking about the things that plague us from an anxiety or perhaps it's mental health that comes out of maybe using too many substances and it bears itself out in depression. He's talking about these things. He was talking about underwhelming government. He was talking about maybe youth who are disillusioned. All these things that when you fast forward to 2020 and our post, kind of our COVID time, were resonating as these messages could have been written yesterday. And so as I was digesting them and thinking about them and how those messages have been playing into part of my walk that I was on, I thought, I wonder if my family would like to be able to access these. And that was where the initial thought came. I want to write something that my family can access. And that includes, my sons and our daughter and our greater family as well. And it led to a conversation with other pastor friends and friends who are in perhaps some more broadcast related fields, that said, maybe we need to do it a little different than that, Dan. Maybe it needs to be a little bit more. Maybe more people besides your family could benefit from this. What do you think about that? And well, that bore out into an 18-month conversation with my friends at Throne Publishing. It's where I got to meet Chris. It's where I got to meet so many incredible people that helped me structure my thoughts, which were, as you remember, Chris, all over the place. Helped me structure those thoughts into something that, Lord willing, is coherent and accessible for people. My grandfather's writings are deep and rich with a Christian wisdom that is available to all of us. And he writes in a way that's, I think some of the writing is so beautiful. A lot of people don't write that way anymore. And so some of the writing is so beautiful. And then I kind of fill in with my gravel road, gruff, pretty accessible commentary and put it all together. Hopefully it's a really good read for people. I've been so thankful for the reception so far.
Yeah, you've had quite a reception so far. And I just love your book. I can't wait to read all of it. I haven't read all of it yet, but I've read a lot of it because I worked with you. And but I just love how you put it together, had your own commentary on that, and how you had to narrow it down, and the foreword that you have in there, and just the response that people have had to it. It's an amazing legacy to your grandfather, a gift to your family, but also a grandpa's gift, a gift to everyone. I love the title. It's like so compelling. It's like, oh, we hunger for the wisdom of our elders, even my age, like the wisdom of the elders is just an amazing thing. And there's a need in this day for mothers and fathers, grandfathers and grandmothers, and what they've been through and what they carry. So I'm really thankful that you had a heart to do that. And as busy as you are in your life, like that you took the time. How did you carve the time out to write this book? I know that was a big endeavor. Even though it was a lot of your grandpa's writing, you still had to put it together and make sense of it for today.
Right. Well, that's a good question, Chris. And I want to share with you that just because I've been crazy hyper scheduled and busy, I did put the book signed in the mail to you yesterday. So that should be coming pretty soon.
I can't wait.
Yeah, and so but I was so thankful for that. And I'm just apologize. It took me a little while to get it to you, but it's coming. And so I think, to answer that question is the important things in life. We can list all kinds of things that we think are important, right? But I really think the most important things that I've learned about are how we interact and relate to one another and to the relationships the Lord has put in our lives. And how do we do that well, with an attention and an intentionality toward a good relationship, a good way to interact with the world. And the world's full of people from, come on, all kinds of backgrounds and experiences and things that advise them. Sometimes the things that advise me, I am fully aware are dramatically different than the things that advise others. But my grandfather had a way of reaching beyond some of those borders and to touch into the things that affect everyone and direct them with thoughts and, I think, timeless wisdom around whether it's relationships with your children, right? Everybody wants a good relationship with your children. What are some things that make that happen? What are some things that make that better? And so as I started thinking about that, I thought, what more important things do I do, right? Like I could help my continued client growth. I can I can help people with their benefit structures and help them, be really efficient in their spend lines and in healthcare, all those sorts of things that sound great in, Fortune 500 magazine. But my gosh, at the end of the day, it's the people who matter, our relationships that matter. And so I had to make time, and I had to really try to figure out what is the most important thing for me to be doing right now, for my family and for our extended family. And now it turns out for a lot more people. But I'm thankful for that, because that's really what it comes down to it. I mean, I made the time because to me it's important. And deciding what's important for you and for people, that's a big part of this. And for me, it was the things that matter most are the relationships we have, and those that are to come. So
yeah, I love your heart, and you wrote about that too in your foreword, and what's really important, and it really rang true for me. And then I was reading one of your grandpa's sermons this morning, and just how he talks about the creative God. And yes, what the things that are most important. And it was just so sweet. It's one of those kinds of books that you could read, one of his messages every day, and
yeah,
really glean from that as a way to start the day or end the day. So I
right.
just love that. PJ, have you had any comments from the peanut gallery up there
Okay.
to the chat room?
Yes, there's people from all over. We've got Kirsten from Pasadena, California. Linda Peebles is
Welcome.
here from Northern BC. Sunderland, UK, Fiona. Ann Ford from Hawaii. Oh my gosh. And let's see. Shout out Wes Connell, Paige Craney from Denver. And let's see, in Pennsylvania. So
Yay. All right. Well, welcome everyone. If you have any questions, we welcome you to ask some questions or make some comments about what Dan is talking about. I also want to invite you to our focus group that starts right after this at 10 after the hour. So at Pacific Standard Time, that would be 10:10. So you can calculate that for where you are. It'll start very soon after this. And we are posting the Zoom link for that in the chat. So you can find it there. And
Hey, Chris,
yes, yeah,
can I give a shout out to the folks from the United Kingdom, and
yeah,
also from California. So part of the endorsements for Grandpa's Grift came from people who live in the UK. One of them lives in Woking, England. I'm not sure how close that is to where our other friend is there in the UK. And the other one is from the northern border of Scotland, but lives in London. And they are, one of them hosts an international podcast called Unbelievable, and his name is Justin Brierley. And the other gentleman's name is Peter Carriage, and he is the CEO of Premier Christianity there in the UK. They've got a bunch of radio stations, and they do the Gospel Awards in the UK. So part of the inspiration and part of my encouragement as I was taking this book into a different place came from people in the United Kingdom who I am fortunate to call friends now. We've become friends over the last 5 years. And so whenever I have a chance to, and I've never been to the UK, so it's like we have to get over there and see the beauty of that country and the surrounding area. So I'm excited about that. And one of the stories, if I may, Chris, is it okay if I take a little
yeah.
time?
Oh, I love it.
For my friend in California, one of the things that, and in the book, there's a story about this. When I was talking about relationships earlier, this matters because the other mailing I did yesterday, Chris, in addition to you, was to a woman named Barbara Vaughn. And Barbara lives in Berkeley, California. Marie and I, my wife, were in California for a trip last spring. And while we were there, we had an extra hour of time, right? An hour, great. So we had an extra hour of time. And I said, Marie, let's go. We landed in Oakland. Let's go to Berkeley to one of the churches that my grandfather would have pastored. And let's just see what it looks like. So we drove to Berkeley, took a little extra time, went up the road into this little church called Epworth, right in the heart of Berkeley, California. Got out of the car, walked inside, got to the front counter. There were some people working there. And I explained who I was a little bit and kind of the project I was working on. This is about a year ago. And one of the people behind the counter looked at me and she said, "Who are you?" And I said, "Well, my name is Dan LaRock." And she said, who's your grandpa? And I said, his name was C. Maxwell Brown. She goes, your grandpa is the reason I joined this church. I said, no way. I said, no way. And she goes, yes. And so then she came out from behind the counter and proceeded to give Marie and I one of the best tours of a church that's been there for a long time that we've ever had. And she shared with me some of the experiences of what it was like to be a woman in her 20s, right? Because it would have been 1965. So a woman in her 20s listening to my grandfather deliver, from the pulpit there in the church, and work with her as she was joining the church and lead the prayer groups and Bible study. I mean, it was uncanny. And so I mention her a little bit in the book, but my view of Californians is super hospitable. And we had a lovely time there in the Bay Area in Berkeley. It actually went up the coast a little bit to Fort Bragg along our trip there too. So anyway, just wanted to give a couple shout outs. Yeah.
I love that story. That's, so this whole group and our following focus group is, we're all writers, we're all creative people within this academy. And there may be some people that are just joining in from the public too. We invite everybody for this forum that you're attracted to this because you think you want to be a writer. See the kinds of doors, just like the story that Dan just said, see the doors that open to you when you begin to step into your creativity and step into your dream. And it's just amazing. And sometimes it takes us stepping in, doing the work, doing the research, starting something. And it's just like God comes in and opens doors and brings divine appointments and strategic ideas. And it's really a joy. And it's a beautiful craft and it's a beautiful gift. And he gives it to us for a purpose. And that is to bring his word to other people, to help other people. And so I'm excited to do what I do. I'm a writing coach by profession and teach within Create Academy. And also I've worked with Throne Publishing, which Dan LaRock and PJ Clark, both are authors, or Throne authors. And it's just a real joy to hear the stories and help people develop their stories to a publishable level. And so I wanted you to talk, well, first of all, let me ask PJ, before we go on, I'm going to ask PJ your question. PJ, you are part of our writing group as in addition to what you do with the dance group. But PJ is a multi-talented, multi-creative person. She does it all. But she just released her book too, tell us a little bit about your book, PJ, and also what the focus group that's after this has meant to you.
Okay, yes, my book is Warrior Dance, and it tells my testimony and how God healed my heart through the arts, which one is dance, one was writing, and one is through art. So I love the arts. I love writing. It's so fun. They all kind of, like one river, all flow. Once you step into the river, it's just amazing how many facets there are to it. And the writing group has just been incredible. Of course, we've seen children's books. David Pennington has a book out that he wrote, and then also Lori Dobbins is working on one. Patricia Webb has one on healing, and it's just amazing. Chris wrote the cutest poem on Facebook. I mean, they write poetry, they write, then the encouragement is to write your book. And Dan, how hard that is to sit down and do the work. I have a chapter in my book called Resistance. There's just so much coming at us. And as soon as we want to sit down to write, it's a challenge, but we do it and we've done it. It's hard work, but it's worth it. So yeah, there's great
I'm
things.
so proud of you both. It's like my little children out there, but your book's out. Like, I'm just so excited.
One of the things I want to say to PJ is I frequently get a little bit jealous whenever I see PJ in pictures, because she's got this really cool Viking sword that I have seen her use. And I don't have a Viking sword, but I need a Viking sword.
Well, my husband got it for me on my 65th birthday. So I have it hanging in our bedroom. Yeah. How many ladies have that on their room?
That is awesome.
Yeah. Talking about the sword. So I want to ask a couple questions that involve your process of writing and putting a group around you, a team around you, but also marketing. So since the sword came up, I need to tell people that are listening, PJ used that sword as well as a dress that she had made for her as marketing material for her pictures that she had taken for the book cover. You might want to hold up your book, PJ, too, if you have it close by there. And it was just an amazing thing that it just really is eye-catching. You're wondering what in the world, and it just so demonstrates what she talks about in the book. And then Dan, you have some unique marketing things that you're doing with the tour of independent bookstores and getting on radio programs. In fact, you just got off of one right before you got on with us today. So people are keeping you quite busy, and I'm just really thankful that you wanted to be with us on Valentine's Day. So, but maybe Dan, you can talk a little bit about the marketing, some of your marketing ideas. Everyone on this call, we may be blog writers, we may be poetry writers, we might just want us to share on social media, or we have books in us, but we can learn no matter what kind of writing we do or what kind of creativity we have. We can learn from each other, and so I love some of Dan's unique ideas on how he's getting his book out there. So go ahead, Dan.
Well, thanks, Chris. Yeah. And some of these ideas, I'm not sure if their fullness will be realized. It will not be for lack of effort. I can promise you that. One of the things I would say prior to even thinking about marketing is when I was thinking about the book and how we were going to share it, I can't help my financial mind gets in my way sometimes, but sometimes it's helpful. And so I had made sure that we created a little bit of a budget. What is our budget going to be around trying to find efficient ways to put the book in front of people who may or may not have an interest in working with it. So a mailing budget was created. I partnered with some people that could take, the stuff that was happening with the book that was cool and make it into neat looking graphics and things like this. So then what I did was actually right when I started to write the book, I went to here in our region, there's a 10-state region called the Midwest Booksellers Association, and it's a collection of indie bookstores who all band together to work on, to be a different type of bookstore than, say, some of the larger national chains or than Amazon or things like that. And so they all band together, and they have really cool shops and really great, places you want to hang out. And if you're looking for that new book and you want to do it inside of a cool shop, it's going to have maybe some coffee and conversation. These are the places to do it. And so they produced this great big map. And on the map are 200 different indie bookstores all around the upper Midwest. And so I've got I recruited a person that lives in our community who I know has interest in books and supporting good work. And she's been a friend to our family for some time. And so she helped me kind of track down all the addresses, all of the various phone contact information, all the social media sites, and we put it into kind of a document, like an Excel document that we were able to then produce, mailing labels. And so I'm in the process right now. I've got 32 of them in my pickup right outside. I've got 32 of these white boxes. I should have brought one inside that has kind of like you sort of open the box and it kind of reveals. First of all, you get a old looking picture frame with like steel tin frame around it and a picture of something from Rock Ranch in it that just says, this book has got, some timeless wisdom in it. This is a time, this frame harkens back to a different time as well. Hopefully you've got an image you'd like to use in the frame, just a small little frame. Then we have a little kit with a letter about how Grandpa's gift has done and a little bit more about the book and ways that the bookstore could carry it if they'd like to, and then a copy of the book. And so we share that with 100 plus bookstores around the region. And I started this, I'm going to say about 3 weeks ago. And I don't do them all at one time because I don't have time to follow up in case they were to call me. So we do a few at a time. Long story short, people are connecting with me. So now the book's available not only on Amazon, but it's also available in a bookstore here in our region called Crossroads. It's available one called Zambros. I just got a call from the middle part of Iowa. They would like to figure out how to carry copies of the book. And along the way, I'm going to back up each mailing I've done with just introducing people to the concept of the book. This is what it is. I'm a new author, Throw It as my publisher. Here's how we do it. and I'll follow up with a phone call. And it gives me a chance to talk to bookstore owners, first of all. So why wouldn't I want to do that? I mean, if I could spend 5 minutes with somebody who owns a bookstore and they've got a source that might carry my book, why wouldn't I want to talk to them? So I'll do that. And then along the way, more and more are starting to carry it. Our website, which is grandpasgiftbook.com, will start to show all the different bookstores where the book is available, in addition to the online platforms. And so, yeah, so some simple marketing like that, trying to put the idea of the book into people's minds as something that might be beneficial for their patrons, right?
That's wonderful. What kind of response did you get from the bookstores so far?
So far, I was hoping for like a 10% response. So when you do like direct mail like this, and it's a little bit more creative, you can count on 1 or 2 or 3%. But I'm hoping for 10, and we've had that kind of response so far. So it's been in that I've got 3 that are coming from the first 30, but I just sent them out and I haven't called any of them yet. So I anticipate that we'll have another 3, maybe 4. So that'll give me 6, 7 out of the first 30, which doesn't seem like a tremendous number, but boy, if we can do 200 and we end up getting 20 plus bookstores to carry it, and all I have to do is provide them copies of the book within kind of that mailing budget I've got, that's a win.
Yeah, that's a win. That's awesome. There's so many things I want to talk about. So the proceeds from your book, 100% you say go to your ministry, which is
Right.
Rock Ranch, a
Right.
wonderful ministry. As I'm talking to writers out there, your book is one part of who you are and the fullness of what God wants to do in your life. So, the book, what it'll do, it gives you authority. You become some kind of a person to turn to because you've actually got a book in your hand, and you'll be invited to speak. You'll be invited on radio shows. So you just kind of need to get yourself out there and let people know about your book. But you can put a ministry around your book, or you can use your book to benefit your ministry, which is what Dan is doing, and PJ is doing that with her book too. And it's just an amazing thing that a book does. It has life that continues to be lived because it was written, and your words just continue to go out there. So I just kind of wanted to talk about that a little bit, but mainly, let's start with this. What has it meant to you to have a team around you to help you get your book from an idea to a printed hardcover book or softcover book?
You bet. Is that for me or for PJ?
That's for Dan.
Okay.
And
So
PJ can comment after too. So let me make sure I ask her too. So
yeah. Well, what I tell everybody listening is that if I didn't have a team of people, the book doesn't get done. So it's something that I thought, I have to do this, but there's so much behind bringing an idea and a collection of thoughts together in a coherent fashion, with attention paid to length and people's attention spans and how they look at things visually on a page. These are not things I spend a ton of time thinking about. I might read, 15 books a year, but I'm not thinking about those kind of things when I'm doing it. But there is a science to it, and there is a psychological part of that I think my team helped me crystallize, all the way down to, Dan, the length of what you're going to say, and the length of each of the messages, the length of the chapters. What are the key sentient points you need to get out in this type of conversation, and what are the ones that we can leave to the reader's imagination? If I didn't have a team, Chris, a huge part of that team for me, if I didn't have a team around me helping me with that, and how do we design the cover? What do we want the cover to exude emotionally? How do we all those types of conversations? I would say the experience I had at Throne was well worth the investment I made into it, simply because now I understand a little bit better that there's no random type experience here. We need to pay attention to the finite details that go into content creation, idea creation, and then delivery, and everything down to how you're going to, what font you're going to use and why. And so I think those sorts of things were not things I thought about, Chris, prior. I just knew that my grandpa had written some really cool things. And some of those things were really, really pertinent for the times that we're living in today, to give us that sense of, there is nothing new under the sun. The things we're experiencing that might feel challenging today as a culture and as a world have been before. And our faith is strong enough, our faith is good enough, our faith is pure enough to lift your boat in these times, whether that's physically, emotionally, or a combination thereof. And my grandpa spoke to that so well. I knew I wanted to share that with people, but the whole process behind it, there is an art and a science that definitively helped me.
Yeah, that's so good. I remember, so my part in that was I was your writing coach. And so I got you at the very beginning. And we met many times on Zoom and just walked through some things, walked through some ideas. I held you accountable to finish certain things by certain times.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
And to look at things a different way. And it was just so much fun to work with. You were so much fun to work with. You were easy to work with, and really like an easy student as far as really wanting to make this a quality experience. And you were investing in that for yourself and for your grandfather and for this book. So it was it was really fun to work with you, Dan. I really enjoyed every moment of all the people I've worked with, but it was really good. I'm so glad that you've come to this point where you've got this beautiful book and you're going for it right now. So
yeah. And I feel the same way, Chris. I feel so thankful for it. And I think one of the things that I would encourage people who are in that creative process right now, who are thinking about it, and I would say that, part of what made our ability to work together so congruent is that I wasn't pulling any punches. I would tell Chris initially, Chris, I'm the most disorganized guy in the world. I can't get this, and I don't know how to do this. I need some help, and Chris would be like, just calm down, just calm down, and so you're going to give yourself more gray hair in your beard than you need right now. So just calm down. So then she'd help me, step by step to say, this is where we want to see this go. I want you to do this and to really think about this and spend some time creating this. Bring it back to me. I'll review it and we'll talk more about it. And in that process, Chris, you asked a lot of questions about me personally, which I think helped you try to get an understanding of where my heart was for this. And if you hadn't done some of those things, that's part of coaching, right? You hadn't known who you were working with. It makes it harder to know what they're trying to do. So I think your investigation into the things that make me tick was really helpful in delivering, ultimately a product that I feel really good about.
Well, thank you. That's really wonderful to hear. Get some feedback on too. What about you, PJ? How was that for you, putting a team around you? And do you have your book there? Can you hold it up? I didn't know if you did.
I did not bring it with me.
Oh, that's okay. Oh, I have it.
Oh, you have it. Okay. I'm sorry. It's in the other room, but I didn't want to get up.
Actually, I can't put my hands on it right now. It was just back there before.
All right. That's all right. But yeah, I think the team is essential. I cannot say enough about Jeremy with Throne Publishing. He ran the distance with me from beginning to end. He's still there for me and I love it. He's awesome. And then of course you, Chris, helping with the content editing. And then Teresa, when she wrote the foreword to my book, and I told her so much of her is in my book, her influence, her love for the arts and their ability to heal. I just love that. And she just was a huge influence. So you need your team. We need each other. I think this is a great way through the Create Forum and focus groups. An opportunity to surround yourself with other writers. It's huge because that's what we've done through Throne.
Oh, thank you. Did you find it there? There it is, Warrior Dance.
And I just wanted to say, Jeremy, I had another woman, just what they get through other photos. She was a young woman with a sword, and that's what I was going to do. And Jeremy, I showed him the cover. He goes, PJ, it's got to be you. And I'm like, what? I gotta be 65, you know. And I went out and I did the photos on this, you know, up on the National Monument, and they were awesome. And I mean, it just makes it so much more special. So
Yes,
thank
very,
you
it's very
much.
personal and eye-catching and wonderful. So, yeah.
PJ, I mean, it looks like you look like Iron Man's right hand. I mean, I'm like, it's as much Marvel comic superness as it's beautiful. It's a
Yeah.
wonderful deal.
Thank you.
When
Yay.
I first saw it, I had to take a double take because I thought, oh my gosh, that's PJ. At first, I didn't realize it until, oh, there's my friend. So let's take a break and just talk to the writers. PJ, if there's any comments, that'd be great to know. But
I
please
do.
put your comments and I'm supposed to tell you this for Create Academy. If you're part of if you just came upon this interview and you're interested in joining or interested in learning more, you can come to our focus group right after this at no charge. And if you decide you want to join Create Academy, you get half off. And we're going to put that code and how to join in the chat right now. And so please join us if you can right after this. There's also going to be a link, a Zoom link for how to join. And it'll start about 10 minutes after we're finished here. But go ahead, PJ. Are there any comments or questions?
Yes. Maria Dreller says, this is so good. She's from LA. Let's see. Krista is from Hawaii. Aloha. But here's a question. Any advice on how to compile writings for a book? What to keep in, what to keep out, size, how to reach the finish line. So you kind of talked about that, Dan, but I know there's some more you can say.
Sure. Yeah, I one of the things I think that was helpful, PJ was helpful, or Chris was helpful for me on this, and PJ, I think maybe you could echo the same, is not every single thought and not every single concept is going to be perfectly suited for the book. And what I mean by that is discern. If I have 10 things I need to say to somebody, well, that might be multiple books, right? So trying to pack too many thoughts into one publication creates, a very long volume of work. And what we thought was, let's see if people are ready for a revisiting of some of what Grandpa Max's wisdom was all about. And maybe let's see if Dan, you've got anything pertinent at all to say that makes sense. And if you do, well, then maybe there's another volume that comes later, or maybe there's a different type of book that shares those other sentiments. Trying to pack all of the things that the world, could use that are blessed and a part of being in God's kingdom. Well, the Bible's like 2,000 pages long, right? So if we're going to try to read, we don't want to necessarily do that. So what I would say is discernment is important. Praying about the things that are closest to what you would like people to know, or concepts that you'd like them to understand, perhaps the way that you understand them, right? Because sometimes writing a book is you want people to understand a concept the way that you do, because maybe it helps, maybe for you, it feel like, I think if people looked at it this way, it would be better for everybody if we could all see things a little bit differently. And so my point here is not every concept is going to make it in. And I would say through prayer and testing those, having conversations with people. If you're able to have a conversation about, one of the chapters in my book is called Intentional Love in All Situations. It's a collection of messages. It talks about, what does intentional love look like? It's kind of pertinent for Valentine's Day in the United States, right? So for Valentine's Day, what does intentional love look like? What does it look like in your spousal relationship? What does it look like in your relationship with your children? What does it look like for the stranger? What does it look like for those among us who are most in need? Our world is in need of a tremendous amount of mentorship right now. I think the pain that's been caused from so many families that have separated and leaving children in their wake causes stress and pain, and we need, the world needs mentors, young men, young women. And so that whole idea has a lot of different spurs, different ways it can go. And so trying to figure out what are the things that you're most ready to talk about right now, again, through prayer and conversation with people you trust, with writing coaches, can help you discern that. So it's a long answer to a pretty direct question, but I hope that helps. Not everything needs to go into book one.
Yeah, I like that. And, just think to yourself, and you kind of touched on this, what are the questions that people are asking? What is hurting people right now that you might be able to help? And then discern and define your message, like, what is it that I can offer? And I'm going over a manuscript now, and there's just parts of it that don't belong in the book anymore. Like, I wrote it about a year ago and I'm still working on it, my book. And they just aren't pertinent. You don't have to put everything in your book. So you discern what really, and I know PJ went through that too, the editing process and the cutting away and making it shorter and saying in 30,000 words what you started out saying in 40,000 words. How can you tighten up? How can you make it more readable and easy? How can you use better words, to one word instead of 10 words to describe something? Those kinds of things too. So all those are part of the craft of writing. That's the art of writing. And it's an exciting thing. It's not a hard thing. I remember in high school, all the red marks on all of our papers and everything, and what the teacher was trying to help us do. But it's like, it's not, the red marks aren't bad. The red marks are creative. They're good. They're helping you to tighten up and learn better words and have more fun with your writing. So that's the attitude I take when I'm writing, and it's part of the art. So it's just part of the process. Usually at this time, we spend about a minute. I'm going to give us a couple minutes here. But what we do, Dan and PJ's been through one of these interviews too. So that's why we're really focusing on you today, Dan. But I'm glad you're both here and both participating. But what we normally do is we bring people in before the Lord. And so I'm gonna pray right now. Dan has shown us what his process with how he talked with God, how God helped him to discern, and how he's put this in his heart to write this book and share his grandpa's words. So I want you all as writers, we're going to take a minute of silence, and I just want you to pray this with me. Lord, I thank you for being in this conversation today. I thank you what you are revealing to me through Dan and through PJ and through this interview, Lord. It's Valentine's Day. You love us. We are your children, your sons and daughters, and you delight in us, no matter where we are, no matter what we're up to, no matter how close or how far we are right now from you. We just thank you for that love. Would you show us, Lord, right now, how you want to love others through our writing? And I'm just going to give you a minute to listen. Okay. So if you guys want to share any of your thoughts in the chat, we'll have a time to just share a few of those. I don't know if Dan and PJ, you were able to write anything during that time. I didn't really have you guys write, but I did hear, and I was writing notes down. So I'm gonna share something, and Dan and PJ, if you have something. I just feel like people need to feel free, and I just wrote down words that bring freedom, life, and love. This is how God wants to love others, through me. Right? To write the words that bring freedom, life, and love, and to champion others where they are, and just to recognize that there are diamonds. They have diamonds inside. They are beautiful and pure, and God put that in there. How can we call that out of them through our writing? And I can think of poems I can write about that and blog posts I can write about that. That's just one thought. But anyway, I don't know. We'll talk more about this in the focus group after this, and we'll have some more writing time. But Dan, did you write anything or have any thoughts around that?
Yeah, there were three or four thoughts that circulate with me right now, and part of it is I mentioned that part of my book that looks like an intentional love, and what does that look like in the world, and the thoughts. There's three words that come, and one of those words is lift. One of those words is encourage. One of those words is connect, and one of those words is mentor. And so those four words, and when I think about them, the images that come to my mind most frequently, Chris, are for the fatherless. And so in our societies across this globe, we have a situation where I think people don't experience their fathers in the way that perhaps they did 100 years ago or 200 years ago. And I think sometimes some of the angst and anxiety that creeps into our lives without us even recognizing it comes from not having the full connectivity to both mothers and fathers. But for me, it continues to be that fatherlessness. And so that's when I sit in silence like that, those are the things that come to me, lift, encourage, connect, and mentor. And it's for, young people in our communities that need that kind word.
Yeah, that's so good. Are you going to keep writing, Dan? Are you going to have another book or blog or?
Well, I'll be praying about that. And we have, I think I'd love to be able to explore some of those thoughts I just shared with you in a different way. I've again, if the Holy Spirit got up in my wife's grill about Rock Ranch and being able to deliver something that looks like that to a broader world, the Lord's up in my grill about people that are from broken relationships or have experienced loss like that for any number of reasons. I'll share this story with you if you'd like me to. I'll tell you what this looks like in my real life practically. These are the weird things that I do, right? Okay, so here comes a weird thing I do. So there's a family in our communities who they're young people, they're juniors in high school, who have just experienced, they're very popular kids in our region here, right? And they've just experienced the joys of biological connectivity. So what I'm saying there is, whoops, somebody got pregnant in high school. Okay. And I'm like, oh no, it becomes such, anybody who's experienced this in any school, I don't care where it is around the globe, becomes like, oh man, somebody's going to have, oh my gosh. So, and there's talk and there's judgment, and there's all of these things that come with it. And we're Christians, right? So we know in kind of our inner selves that, maybe the conversation around saving yourself for marriage isn't just a law thing. It's kind of practical sometimes too, right? So, but all these things come at these kids, right? And they're just kids.
Mm-hmm.
So what I do is I look at that and think, I'm not going to be that person. I'm not going to be that person. So I call the mom, and I call the both sets of parents, right? And I just let them know, look, when I hear things about what's happened with your kids, regardless of the conditions or the way in which those things came to be, I'm thinking about that baby.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking about a child of God coming into this world.
Uh-huh.
And if you want to consider that there's been you can call it a mistake if you want. You can say the act that you engaged in that produced this new life was like not what we intended. Okay, great. But what are you going to do now?
Mm-hmm.
How are you going to respond now? And I let the moms and the dads and the kids, I talked to one of the two kids, just say, look, from me and mine, this is what intentional love looks like. I will not let somebody in our community run you down. I will not allow somebody to share words of negativity with you. You've got a baby on the way. For the love of God, we need to keep, and Lord willing, if it comes, if she's able to bring it to term, those sorts of things, now you've got a real life child of God. And so I think sometimes, and those conversations aren't comfortable, right? You're uncomfortable when you get into it. You're going to start sweating a little bit, and you're going to, right? I don't know these folks all that well, but I know them well enough to have this conversation.
Well, yeah, that's so good. I mean, that's the love of God through you to those other people, and you were the one. You provide the fathering to the parents and to the kids, and
Lord
that's
willing,
the crisis
Lord
situation.
Willing.
So it's awesome. So
that's what I intend. Yeah,
I love that. Write things around that too, or just be that, to people. So PJ, how about you? And then we'll have Dan wrap up with a prayer for us. But PJ, what did you write?
Oh, I had, excuse me. Well, I felt like a book is kind of like our hearts. When you're writing the book, you gotta get rid of all the clutter. You gotta do the reduction, and just like in cooking. And then there's the essence of that book. And I feel like that's our relationship with God. As we're writing the book, He brings it down into that, what's important to our hearts and what we want others to see about our hearts. And it's kind of a vulnerable place, and but it's an awesome process of going through that, and having Him show you what's important and what's in your heart.
I love that, PJ. And you're just making me think about how the process of writing and sharing His love with others through our words also brings His love to our own hearts. Like, we find healing in His love and a new relationship with Him, or deeper relationship with Him in the act of that writing. And I'm just so thankful that you guys shared so much today. This has been amazing. Thank you, Dan, for doing this with us.
You bet. Thank you. Thank you. My
wonderful.
pleasure.
Yeah. Dan, would you say a prayer for us, or that just over the writers that are listening today and in the future?
I'd be honored. Absolutely. Let's fold our hands, bow our heads. Lord God, we come to you today with open hands and open minds and open hearts. And Lord, for those who are on this call that may be in different stages of trying to bring glory to your world, may you help them with the inspiration they need to bring what you'd have us know about you and your heart. And may you inspire them with the written word and with ideas that they need, Lord, as you've inspired so many over the years. We know, Lord, that you do it. We know how much it glorifies you to bring people together and connect them. And the written word and the book is such a remarkable gift from you. And so, Lord, I ask you for perseverance for those on this call who need it. I ask you for inspiration for those on this call who need it. And Lord, I ask you for that sense of finishing, finish well, bring to fruition all the things you've worked on so long and hard, and get it into the world so that you might receive glory and honor through it. And all these things I lift in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Well, thank you so much, both of you, for joining me today. And for everyone else, join us on the focus group. It's going to be fun. We're going to do a lot of writing today. And Dan, you can come on too. You can find the link right underneath, right in the chat with this program here today on Facebook. So,
Chris, I would love to. I got to jump on another one.
Oh, there you go. Boy, you're popular on Valentine's Day, huh? All right. Well, we love you on Valentine's Day.
It was fun. Absolute pleasure. Thanks so much for having me. And hi to my friends in the UK. Hi to my friends in California and Denver and all over. So happy to meet all of you. And I hope that there was something good that came out of this for everyone. So thank you, PJ. Thank you, Chris.
Yes, thank you. We'll see you soon. All right. Bless you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.